My educational ideology. An educational ideology, according to Matherson, is a package of educational ideas held by a group of people about formal arrangements for education. There are three main categories of ideology: knowledge-based, individual-based, and society-based. My personal educational ideology is a mixture of an individual and society-based approach. This means that I believe education should focus on the individual development of each child, as well as having a focus on community. What should schools be teaching? In my opinion, it is important for children to learn about the world they are living in. It is important that children grow up learning skills that are going to benefit them in later life. This view is similar to Claxon, who believe that the education system should be aiming to provide a sense of real life and helping to build the skills necessary to survive. Claxon felt that it was important for children to learn in a way that is beneficial to them, which in his opinion is about the real world and the skills needed to succeed. My idea of education is that children should be taught things such as how to do taxes, how to apply for a mortgage, and the rules and laws of the land. Among other things, financial skills and an understanding of the world would prove extremely beneficial to many. The UK government view is also similar to mine and Claxon's. In the national curriculum, it states that one of the key aims of education is to prepare pupils for the experiences and opportunities in later life. This suggests that the government also recognise the importance of building children for the future. What is the purpose of education? As mentioned, my educational ideology follows an individual approach. It is important, in my opinion, for the purpose and core focus of education to be on the child and their interests, preparation for the outside world, and to build the next generation. Children should be free to learn and pursue their own interests, whether those interests be academically based or not. Although it is still important to learn core academic subjects, there is still an inherent need for children to have the opportunity to build and develop their own interests in their own unique ways. Children that are currently in school form the next generation, and therefore it is important for them to build the values needed for society. Values such as respect, responsibility, and tolerance are necessary for success in the 21st century. Rousseau held a similar view to mine, and this is where the basis of my argument comes from. Rousseau felt that the freedom of the child was most important and that they should have control over what they do. Similarly, I believe that children should have the freedom within their own education to learn about what interests them the most. There is little to no point for children to be at school if they are disengaged and not paying attention, yet if they were to learn about topics that interested them, then they would be. Claxon also links into this as his learning power approach focused heavily on building children to be the best they could be and creating a next generation of successful adults, which holds the same beliefs as my own. What is the role of the child in education? The role of the child is to be ready and willing to learn and to come to school with a good positive attitude. One way to do this is to give the child a reason to want to be there, which links with my previous point about allowing children to choose what interests them. By allowing children to take control over their learning, they are likely to arrive at school with a positive attitude and be wanting to learn and give their full attention. In my opinion, it is also important that children are proactive in their learning. If a child is interested in their learning and has a desire to improve, then their attainment scores will rise, as well as the child being a happier individual. A.S. Neill developed his summer school on the basis of wanting children to be free from authority and have the space to explore the world in which way they find interesting. He was known for his revolutionary ideas that were considered very progressive at the time. However, the school is currently still running in Suffolk, so evidently his methods work. Neill believed that if children had the freedom in education, that they would want to learn. This is why at the Summerhill School, children are not required to attend lessons, rather they are voluntary. This links with Rousseau's ideas about giving children the freedom to explore and take charge of their education, and the system of non-compulsory lessons clearly does work as the school is still running. Echoes of Pezzolotti's work can be seen in Neill's Summerhill School, as children are asked to explore the world by actively doing things and seeking out new experiences, which for Pezzolotti was extremely beneficial. What is the role of the teacher in education? In my opinion, the role of the teacher is to guide and support students in regards to learning, well-being, and development. The role of the teacher is fundamental to the learning process, and it is their job to ensure that students are learning at a high standard and are progressing at a good rate. They have a responsibility to aid all students where necessary, and to do this to the best of their ability. Maria Montessori believed that the role of the teacher was to facilitate the learning rather than to enforce it. She believed that the teacher should explain the task and then allow the children to learn through exploration, discovery, and research. Montessori believed that this could be done at all ages and would allow the children to learn through their own experiences, giving them an enriched sense of the world. This is also very similar to Rousseau's ideas about the freedom of learning. In regards to well-being and development, the teacher's role is to ensure their students are emotionally and mentally well and to be understanding and compassionate. The teacher's standards outlines how teachers have a responsibility to safeguard their pupils and to provide a nurturing environment where each child can flourish. Where should learning take place? Education should use a range of resources and activities to facilitate learning. Part of this is related to where the learning is taking place. In my opinion, learning should take place in a variety of places in order to be engaging and interesting for the child. In some instances, learning does have to take place in a formal classroom setting. But this setting can help children learn skills such as quiet work, working by themselves, and also has links to what a formal workplace might be. That said, it is important to vary the location of learning. Some topics in school lend themselves to outdoor learning. For example, when learning about plants in science, the children should be able to learn outside and explore in order to learn in a hands-on way. It is also important to include school trips in education, as majority of trips can include a guided tour with someone who knows the subject inside out and can often provide enrichment that the teacher alone could not. Finland focused heavily on the benefits of hands-on learning and utilised outdoor spaces and extracurricular trips as a way to engage children and keep them excited about learning. The reason for this is because the Finnish system believes that children require hands-on physical experiences to learn through experimentation in order to get the most out of their education. What is the purpose of assessment in education? In majority of UK schools, there is a high focus on assessment, both summative and formative. This generally can put students under a lot of unnecessary pressure and stress. I think that children don't need to be tested so vigorously, particularly at such a young age, as there is simply no reason good enough to do this. My view is supported by the Finnish education system, and they prove that such a system can and does work. In Finland, they do not use any measure of summative testing, but instead use a wide range of formative tests. They do this in order to decrease the pressure on children, but to enable them to monitor individual development and attainment levels. Evidently, this method works very well, as in the 2018 PISA rankings, Finland was 7th place for average reading score, 14th for average mathematics score, and 5th for average science score. They also placed well above the average across all three sectors, out of the 78 countries and economies participating. A school system that uses a similar approach to Finland is the Steiner-Waldorf approach. The Steiner-Waldorf approach doesn't use summative testing, but uses long-period formative assessment to closely monitor the progress of each child. The class teacher stays with the child for 8 years, meaning they have the opportunity to develop a deep insight into what the child is like and how they perform academically. This is a good system as it reduces the pressure on children, but allows them to be academically assessed. According to the Steiner-Waldorf Schools Fellowship website, the school also boasts above-average GCSE results when compared to state schools. In conclusion, my ideology is taken from a multitude of different sources, and I have used a range of theorists and thinkers to develop my own personal ideology. The diagrams show and demonstrate how each of the ideas discussed in this presentation link to either an individual-based approach or a societal one. Fundamentally, the most important thing about education is the well-being and the happiness of the child. If a child is unhappy, then they are not going to be able to achieve their full potential, which is important, not because the grade itself is important, but because of the world we live in, where certain jobs and careers require a certain level of achievement. Montessori and A.S. Neill have been most influential in building this ideology, as their ideas are ones that can be somewhat controversial, but I believe that they work the best. The children in these schools are happy, they achieve well, they have a passion for learning, and the schools still operate to this day, showing that there must be a reason children are being continually enrolled. There was also the ideas of Claxton that have been very influential to me, as he talks a lot about building children for the real world and focusing on life skills, which lots and lots of children can benefit from an early age.